Good afternoon, everybody. It's Effective Resume Thursdays. We're very glad you're with us. It's August 13th. For those people who are on Zoom, there's a couple different ways to view things. If you haven't figured that out by now, hopefully you're on the speaker view, which is what it looks like in the lower left-hand corner. And where that red arrow is, you can grab those two little white lines and you can pull it back and forth so you can make the speaker bigger or smaller, whatever works for you, so you can see all the information that's on the slide. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and on the Career USA YouTube channels for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, and if you post a comment in the chat box or have your microphone or camera on, you give consent for your comments, name, and picture to appear. For those people on Zoom, please, if you will, open your chat box up. I know that we'll be using that throughout the presentation and the participant box too. So if you have any questions, please just put them in the chat box as you think about them. And then that way we'll be sure to get them answered. And for those people who are on Facebook, if you just want to use the comment box, just enter your questions in the comment. I am monitoring that feed and I will make sure your questions get answered. We will review one or two resumes today live online. I know we already have one resume right now, so I guess we're looking for one more. If you'd like to delete your header information, please do so before you submit your resume, because it will be online from here to eternity. So all you need to do is click where that little blue arrow is and find the right file that you want to update or send up to us, and we'll be glad to do it. If you want to send it just to Carol, you can just, instead of sending it to everybody, just send it to Carol only if you like, whatever you'd like to do. All right, well, good afternoon. My name is Jeff Morris. I founded Career DFW back in 2008 to help the unemployed in the DFW area. In 2012, I started CareerUSA.org after a visit to the White House and finding out that there really wasn't anybody else doing anything like Career DFW in the country. So I thought, let's help people outside the DFW area. So I started CareerUSA.org. Since 2007, I facilitate and lead the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. I'll tell you about our speaker tomorrow and what our programming is tomorrow at the very end of this session. And I've been a member of the practice interview team since 2017. So our speakers today are Carol Brickell, who's a certified professional career coach, and Susan Graye, a global talent acquisition leader. So ladies, please take it away.
Great, thank you, Jeff, for the introduction. And I will share our PowerPoint slides. And I think another person is going to be submitting their resume, so thank you for that. And the way to do that is in the chat box, you have the option of sharing it with everyone, or you can just mail it to me. There's a little drop down in the to line to be able to do that. So, okay. And I'll double check. Can you see my presentation okay, Jeff? Okay, great. Thank you. Good. And as Jeff mentioned, we will be using the interactivity components of Zoom. So please do open your participant box. And if you can hear my voice and see the screens, click the green check mark that's in the bottom of the participant box. We've got a big group out there today. That's great. We've got lots of participants and some familiar names out there. Great to have everyone here today. And then we will also be using the chat feature. So if you could please click on the chat box. And I'll have a warm-up question for us. So if everybody could go into chat and think about in the last 30 days, approximately, it doesn't have to be exact, but in the last 30 days, how many jobs have you applied to online? Just curious there. Starting to get some numbers coming in. And the reason I ask this question today is because our theme for this week's session is applicant tracking systems, and the fact that each system is different, and so you're probably applying online. And so we're going to cover a little bit of information about applicant tracking systems, but also advise you don't get too caught up in the details of these systems because each one is different. And you'll hear from Susan, our co-presenter today, that each implementation of an ATS system is different. So they can really vary. And so don't drive yourself crazy trying to anticipate everything about ATS systems. And so we've added a slide to kind of take a step back and give you advice on how to keep the big picture and ensure that you're networking also when you're applying online. So I could see from the audience, and thank you everyone that has gone into the chat box, the numbers range from 2 to 25, yeah, about 2 to 25 applications over the last 30 days. So people are doing a lot of online applications. And I think that's great, because when I worked as a corporate recruiter and we posted a job, the first place we would go was in our applicant tracking system, because we could get low-hanging fruit that way. If we could see the top qualified candidates, that would save us time rather than going out and searching on LinkedIn. So, so it's okay to apply online if you also reach out to a human being. Okay, by way of introduction, I know several people out there probably already know my background, and I do have 30 years of experience as a hiring leader. I worked for EDS that was acquired by Hewlett Packard, and then I retired in 2012 and got a job as a recruiter because I really wanted to learn the recruiting industry so that eventually when I became a career coach, I would have lots of experience to be able to help people, and it's turned out to be true. And I've done some agency recruiting and corporate recruiting, and I've placed people in a variety of different roles. And like Jeff, I serve every week on the Dallas pit crew, and I think we had another member of the pit crew in the audience. I don't know if Walton Glass is still out there, but we also had another pit crew leader out there. That's the organization where you practice interviews, and I highly recommend, you know, in addition to spending time updating your resume, spend time practicing for interviews. And I think Jeff can share some information in the chat box about the pit crew. Good, and I'm seeing several resumes. I'm going to download one real quick. And so we'll probably just have time to get through one or two. And if I don't get to your resume today and you still have questions, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn and we can set up a time to follow up on that. So if we don't have time to get to your resume in the session today. So I've saved that second one. And there's a third one we may not have time to get to today. And then I'm also certified by the Professional Association of Resume Writers and Career Coaches. And now I'd like to give Susan a chance to introduce herself as well.
Thanks, Carol. So my name's Susan Graye. I'm actually based a little bit south of Dallas, down here in Houston. And I'm a global talent attraction acquisition leader, basically meaning I've been both a recruiter and sourcer working for an agency as well as a big corporation, Hewlett Packard Enterprise, where Carol and I had the opportunity to meet. My expertise includes not only recruiting, but helping develop and implement innovative strategic, methods for finding people. So really hoping to help each of you understand, what recruiters are looking at versus what you're looking at as a candidate, and give you some tips and tricks to navigate finding your next opportunity.
Great. And thank you for joining us today, Susan.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I've recently retired actually as a recruiter from Next Step Recruiting, and I keep in touch with them every week, and I sometimes do webinars for their candidates. And each week they let me know some hot jobs that they're recruiting for. So I've posted some hot jobs on the screen, and I'm also wondering if everybody out there can go into the chat box and type in a couple of words about the type of job you're looking for. And that'll give me a better idea of our audience so I can post or share more of those kind of opportunities. Because these jobs are mostly in the financial area: financial analyst, senior accounting positions, credit analyst, corporate tax managers. If you meet any of these requirements, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn and I can get you connected with the right recruiter at Next Step Recruiting. Plus, they also do a lot of recruiting for administrative assistant positions, HR, and they're starting to do a lot of healthcare. So lab technicians, maybe nursing. I'll check on that. Okay, good. Thank you. I was seeing an accountant out there. Okay. If you want to reach out to me, please let me know, because there's, I know Next Step Recruiting is recruiting right now for several accounting positions. Okay, good. Thank you everyone for going into the chat box and letting me know the types of positions you're looking for. Also, IT systems development, Next Up Recruiting has an IT division as well, so I can get your resume over there. Okay, great. Good. So the agenda for today is we're going to talk about applicant tracking systems. And once again, don't get too caught up in the details of applicant in the systems and trying to break the system. Also, remember to network as well, and we'll talk about that. And then Susan will be sharing also her top resume tips, and we'll talk about key components of a resume, and then we will review a couple of sample resumes. Sorry, I got trigger happy moving the slides forward. Yeah, I'm seeing lots of technical jobs out there. I'm just looking at the chat box real quick to see the types of jobs that people are looking for. Excellent. And then the last half hour, we will look at the sample resumes. So I'll kick off this slide about applicant tracking systems, and then I'll ask for Susan to share her insights. As a global talent acquisition leader, she has a very unique perspective because she's used Workday and Taleo. So that offers a great perspective. So basically these applicant tracking systems, when you apply online into a system, what that system does is it reads the text, the data in your resume and parses it and puts the data into various data fields like name, address, phone number, job titles, dates. So it does parsing. Oh, and thank you, Jeff, for annotating my slide as we go along. That's always a nice little surprise. Thank you for that. And the main thing to keep in mind when you upload a resume into an ATS is don't use any special characters. Underlines can throw off an ATS system because it can't read characters that go beneath a line. I've read conflicting information about italics. Some systems it causes an issue, some systems it doesn't. And I did some research regarding whether to have active URLs in your resume, like your LinkedIn URL. And I've read in some situations that can throw off an ATS. So just keep it clean text and no special formatting, no special whiz-bang bullets, just the default word little dot bullets. And then also, if you put your contact information in the header in MS Word, it won't pick that up, it won't read it. So don't use the header stuff. And I've actually read conflicting information about whether you should upload an MS Word document or PDF. In some implementations, they actually have a little more issues reading PDFs. But do ensure that your keywords in your resume align to the job description you're applying to. And you can test that out by using an application called jobscan.co, where you can compare your resume against a job description. It can tell you if you're a 30% match or a 70% match and give you an idea if you need to work on your resume a little bit. And so now I'll ask Susan if you'd like to cover any additional insights.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So, number one is I'm going to ask a quick question in chat because I think it's always fun to have some interactivity. So who can provide me the name of some applicant tracking systems that they're familiar with? Anyone? Taleo, yep. Now owned by Oracle, ICMS, Workday. Yeah, Workday is being used more and more. So thank you so much for each sharing. There's also Greenhouse. The key thing, I want to make sure everyone realizes is the front end that you find, in the application process is through the applicant tracking system. And I think it's really important to understand what an ATS does. And for companies, what an ATS does is it makes sure that it does what it says, applicant tracking. So like in the US, we have OFCCP regulations. It makes sure the recruiters are looking at things unbiased and moving candidates through the interview process and the selection process. And it also provides an audit trail for, if you're ever audited. A lot of times recruiting departments are audited. So really important for you to understand. As we look at it, you know, Carol and I were talking about this earlier this week. You'll start seeing more and more something called chatbots or AI. And what'll happen is some companies are, even before you apply, and I, you know, be curious to see if anyone's run into this, having a chatbot come in and pre-screen you with a couple questions even before you apply for a position. So just wanted to throw that out there. That technology, especially with recruiting departments being cut down, is really being utilized more and more. The key thing as there you go, Patty. So you've seen the chat bot, and yeah, it's one of the, what do you think of it? I mean, did you like it? Did you not like it? Out of curiosity. You know, as you go in, didn't care for it. Okay.
Didn't care for it. Yeah, there's some,
it's interesting.
they act all friendly, but they're actually gathering data about you and how
they're gathering data. Yeah, well, and the other thing is there's a whole new portion of the recruiting industry that not only has the chatbots, but is teaching, has live recruiters doing that screening, because they have found, similar to yourself, that individuals are turned off by talking to a machine, and they much rather would talk to a person. So the key things to remember, right, when you're applying, the job title may be something that is very attuned to the company. When Carol and I worked at HPE, there was specific job that was aligned to job architecture. So, you know, quick hint, you may want to look, you know, do a quick Google search and see what else it's called and look at your resume and make sure it aligns. The second thing, like Carol mentioned, is when you're applying, does a chatbot keep you from applying? That's a great question. It may veer you in different directions, but it'll give the recruiter some upfront information. Depending upon the applicant tracking system, in addition to your resume, there may be pre-screen questions, and Carol, I know you'd asked me about that, and how that works in some of the systems, like in Taleo, as a recruiter, you can score and rank the competencies, and it'll give the recruiter a score. So not all questions are measured the same way. So, you know, just some really good things to be aware of, but don't let them scare you. The other key thing that I want to share, because we have so much to cover today, is the key thing I want you to remember is every time you apply for a position, make note of the requisition number. If you're reaching out to someone at that company, especially a huge company like HPE, the requisition number is going to be what aligns it to a recruiter and a hiring manager, and will allow you to navigate through the system. So that if you learn nothing else from me today, know that. The second is, as you go through, you're going to be asked, EEOC questions, things along that line. Make sure, and understand those. The recruiter can't even see the answers to those questions, but a lot of the questions put in there in terms of race, ethnicity, gender have to be put in from a government regulation standpoint. So it's not anything the recruiter is looking at, but it's something that needs to be put in from an application standpoint. And the last one, in terms of talent communities, there's a newer technology with some companies where you can align to a talent community, which will proactively push communications to you. So you're not only applying for a specific rec, but you're applying to proactively become part of a talent community. So those are great to be a part of. And last, just because you've applied for one software engineer, financial analyst at a company, keep applying, because the requisitions, depending on the company, may go to different recruiters. So don't think I've applied for one job there, I'm not applying for others. If you see other opportunities with the same job title, my recommendation is apply for those as well, but don't apply for positions unless you meet basic criteria.
Great. That's great advice coming from a talent acquisition leader. And on our next slide, I'll say a couple things here, and then Susan, if you want to add to it. We've been talking about the details of these ATS systems and the fact that each one is different. But basically, what I recommend is take a step back a little bit and basically just upload your resume that's clean from any special formatting, special bullets, and all that kind of thing. And then review the information that when you've uploaded your resume in the ATS system, look for it. Make sure it got your name correct. Maybe make sure it doesn't say Carol PMP instead of Carol Brickell or something. Just make sure, because if you do put comma PMP, it could end up in your last name file. And the most important thing is, and especially in today's competitive environment, when you apply online, the chances of you getting called for an interview are really only about 2%, unless you reach out to a person, either somebody you know that can advocate for you and send a note to the leader of talent acquisition, or reach out to the recruiter who posted the job, or if you don't have the name of the exact recruiter, reach out to the recruiting leader in that organization and let them know that you applied for that requisition number and that you meet the requirements. That's what they're listening for. Did you meet the requirements? Not that you're excited and you need a job, but that you met the requirements. Is there anything you would add to this, Susan?
So I think what's really important to me if I'm a candidate is great, Carol, how do I know who that person is? So this is where LinkedIn comes to play. I mean, one of the things that you can do, and I highly recommend, is each time you apply for a company, there's a feature in LinkedIn where you can search that company to see who you know and who's a second-degree connection. So you're gonna start following every company you apply for, but also hit on that people button, and it'll show you who you know at the company and who you're connected to. And hitting upon the same point again, know the requisition number, know the title. And Carol, what you said makes a ton of sense. Don't do more than 3 bullets, but make sure you help whoever you reach out to understand how you're qualified. Have your selling pitch ready to go anytime you reach out. Help make that bridge easy, because if they're going to refer you, they're going to want to know you're qualified. They're putting their name on the line, their reputation on the line.
Yes, absolutely. And when as a recruiter and recruiting leader, when I got those calls, I would thank them. I would thank the candidate and say, thank you for reaching out. You just saved me hours, digging through all those resumes. So yeah, so you're doing a favor. So Susan, would you like to share your top resume tips?
I'd be happy to. So number 1, and it's funny, I just found an article today in Very God Boss. I cite you, Carol, and I think a lot of these were in there. As you're writing your resume, don't just say what you did. You can cover a lot of that in the interview. Focus on what you accomplished. I mean, what are you really proud of? What makes you stand out, right? Spotlight features and benefits. So your resume is like your brochure. Again, what is the benefit of bringing you on board? Sell yourself in your resume. Utilize action verbs to start each bullet and make them succinct. The more succinct and the easier it is to read, the more likely your resume will get read. The job of the resume is to whet the appetite. And I saw this years ago. So if you ever have gone to TGI Fridays or Cheesecake Factory, you know how hard it is to make a decision because their menu is like thousands of pages long. What you want to do is just provide enough information so somebody wants to call you and go, I want to know more about Chick, right? He wrote XYZ. He sounds like a great person, and they'll set up the interview. You don't want to provide the answers to all the questions. If it's too complicated, the recruiter or hiring manager may not get through it. And then, this one, in terms of job scan that you hit on earlier, Carol, anytime you can, make sure your resume does help the reader, whether it's the recruiter or hiring manager, and depending on the company, if maybe the hiring manager looking at the resume first, understand how you qualify for the position. So if you're applying for something and it says resume, chances are you're not going to get called back. Thanks.
Great. And the audio paused there for a second. What was your last sentence? You said when you apply for something.
When you apply for a position, just make sure you build the bridge. Help people understand why you're, like that you're qualified. So if it's asking for 3 things, if those 3 things don't show up on your resume, chances are you're not going to be called back. Most of the time when a hiring manager or recruiter is quickly qualifying, and I know, based upon this audience, it looks like some of you have hired in the past. you want to understand by looking at the document that the person meets the basic qualifications.
Great, thank you. And we've had a couple of good questions come in the chat. One person says their latest tactic has been to reach out to CEOs of company, and then within an hour she's heard from the HR, they've heard from the HR person. What do you think about that, Susan?
It's like a really interesting tactic, right?
Yeah.
Because and I'm going to share why, right? This may be the secret for all of us. I was just meeting with someone earlier this week that's a recruiter, and they were sharing that they go back in and see who their CEO has said they can actually, there's a place on their applicant tracking system where they can see who the CEO has asked them to talk to. So I just think it depends on the size of the company. I mean, the bigger the company, I would doubt the CEO a chance to refer it, but executive referrals do become first priority for most recruiters. So interesting strategy. It might be something we have to track.
Yeah, it may work in some situations. And then somebody said that they'd heard that companies may frown on people that have applied to multiple positions. So
yeah, and my thought on that is only if you're applying for everything, and none of it's related, right? Big company like Carol came from, we would have software developers in a number of different divisions, and it would be all different recruiters. So if you applied for a position in Aruba, but you didn't apply for one supporting SGI or, Green Lake, we'd never know, right?
Yeah.
The key is you don't want to be saying I'm X one day and Y the next, and it just really depends upon the size of the company. So I'll say know your audience. What do you think, Carol?
Exactly. Great. And one other question is, how long do resumes remain in the ATS system?
Until they're upgraded. And not the resume, until the system is upgraded. So usually, companies have to keep the resume. I mean, I talked about the reason ATS systems are there. There's also something called a CRM, which is a candidate relationship management system, which are being used more and more as a front end, like Phenom People is one, where you're not only in a talent community, but recruiters are tracking pipelines. ATSs are used to audit to make sure companies didn't discriminate in the hiring process. So for that reason, it's kind of like your IRS tax files. They're not eliminated, but they may, after a certain point, be eliminated if the company changes ATS systems or upgrades.
Okay. And then somebody has a question about having different resumes for each position and saying the ATS, you can't add a different resume for each position. I guess yes.
It depends on the ATS.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been able to do it. I think it depends on the ATS.
Yeah.
And, you can always edit your applicancy in some of the systems. So I think it really is ATS dependent.
And you can always upload your resume too as an attachment as well if you want the recruiter to see that one. So basically, characteristics of good resumes, your overall goal is to make it easy for the ATS system and also the human screeners, the recruiters and the hiring managers to see that you're a good match for the job. So you want to have very clean formatting. And I keep hearing great recruiters say, have lots of white space, don't have too much text. When you have white space, then the words kind of pop out more quickly because on average, and I'll ask the audience here, how much time do you think a recruiter spends looking at a resume? Go ahead and type in a number of seconds in chat. And people are right on target. I just read a study. I used to say as a recruiter, I would spend between 5 and 10 seconds. And I read a study that said 7.4 seconds. So you all are right on. So you want your resume to jump out, the keywords to jump out. In terms of overall length, the sweet spot is 2 pages, but there may be exceptions to that, like in the government area and higher education and highly technical jobs where you may need more pages to talk about certifications and such. And then here's our opportunity for a polling question. I'm interested to hear from the audience which option you like to to use when you're showing the number of years on your resume, especially if you have a lot of experience. The first option being showing all of your experience. And when I applied for a job at the age of 60, I showed everything from 1980 on, but it was people that knew me, they knew my background, so I just put it out there and it worked for me. And then B, as a recruiter, I would see a lot of resumes that were chopped off after 10 or 15 years. And I could tell they had a lot of experience, and that would cause confusion often during interviews. When I asked about experience and they told me about something that wasn't on their resume, and I'd ask, where is this? And they'd say, oh, that was so long ago. And then the other option is to go ahead and show details about your most recent jobs, and then have a section called prior relevant experience and show company names and your titles. And you can have the dates if you want to or not on your resume. Now in LinkedIn, you have to show them. In the job application, you have to show the dates. But that option gives the recruiter and hiring manager more the full picture of who you are. And I see the majority of our audience, a vast majority, 75%, said they would go with that option. And that's actually the option I find that works best with most people. Okay. And then somebody said they include only the stuff that's relevant to their career. That's their third career. Yeah, and that may make sense as well. Okay. And if your resume is 2 pages, do recruiters ever make it to page 2? Yeah. During that 7.2 seconds, I read this top part. I look at the most current job. I see if there's any gap since the end of the last job. Look at the second page to see how many jobs they've had and if they've jumped around a lot, and look at the education. Yeah, we're quick. We do that in 7.4 seconds. And somebody said option C makes you look old. Maybe if you just list a couple of options there and don't put dates, I don't think so. It just shows the full picture. Okay. All right, thanks for doing that polling thing. Good. Now I'll briefly talk about key components of a resume, and then we'll look at an example. And so these are the main components of a resume. You may have additional components like certifications or publications or other technical skills. And we'll walk through these real quickly. Your heading, you want it to be really clean. Now have your name top and center, have your contact information, and no physical street address. You don't need to add that. Summary profile, have a very brief statement of who you are, a profile statement, not an objective saying you're seeking a position where you can grow your skills, but a statement of who you are, such as innovative business analyst with a proven track record of documenting business requirements, et cetera, et cetera. And then have areas of expertise. And we found kind of the magic numbers to have 9 of these. If it gets to be 15 or more, it gets to be too much. And this is an area that can really be easily modified every time you apply for a job. And last week I was coaching somebody and we're talking about modifying their resume for each application. And the poor person went, oh no, that's gonna take forever. And I said, don't spend more than 10 or 15 minutes. Just study the job description, make the modification and move on. You don't have to spend hours. So be kind to yourself and just spend a little bit of time and it'll be worth it. And then an optional section you can have after your areas of expertise is key accomplishments. And I see especially salespeople, business development, even recruiters that have a lot of tracking of achievement of certain targets and goals. That's a good section to have in the resume. So I've seen people do that. And then in your professional experience section, make sure it's very easy to read with the name of the company and the years that you've been there, bullet points that are either 1 line or 2 lines at the very most per bullet point. Make sure all your verbs are correct, that the jobs in the past are all in the past tense. You wouldn't believe how many resumes I've seen where it's been a mixture of tenses. And then also per job, we recommend having between 5 and 8 bullet points per job. You don't want to have 15 or 20 bullet points because a hiring manager would never be able to read all of that. And the bullets should focus on results. For example, the 3rd bullet in this example on this page It starts with a strong verb. It's really focused on the result. Reduced the data migration time and eliminated errors by developing a Visual Basic program, rather than just saying I developed the Visual Basic program. It focused on what was the result. It reduced errors and increased stakeholder satisfaction. And if you have multiple roles at one company, this is the recommended format, because I see a lot of resumes where people have a job, you know, three different jobs at a company, and they put their dates out right, justified for those jobs, and it looks like they've hopped from company to company. And then it takes me a minute to realize, or a few seconds to realize, oh, that was all within one company. And thank you, Jeff, for the annotations again. So what we recommend is to show the full length of time you were at the company, and then for each job, in parentheses, show the dates for those particular jobs. And then somebody's asking if we share the presentation deck. I don't think we share the actual deck, but the recording is available. And we do share a couple of templates, a resume template, a cover letter template, and we also this week have an article about ATS systems that we'll be sharing in the chat box. Okay. And then if your company that you've worked for has changed names, there's a couple of ways you can handle that. You could say the current name followed by the old name, or the old name with the date of an acquisition. So for example, in 2012, when I was looking for a job when I retired from HP, I said HP Enterprise Systems, formerly EDS, or I could have said EDS, acquired by Hewlett Packard in 2008, which was when Hewlett Packard acquired EDS. So there's a couple of options there. And then you want to make sure to have your education and software skills. And especially you want to look at the job descriptions that you're applying to and look for any specific software requirements. And even if they say Microsoft Excel, be sure to put it on your resume and look for any other software requirements. I want to show this slide real quickly before we show a sample resume. Okay, what you want to do when you're modifying your resume every time you apply for a job is study the job description. And here's a job description for a business analyst. Now take a few minutes to really read and study what they're looking for. Get your head around what they're looking for. They're looking for somebody who can document business requirements. So you want to be sure if you are a business analyst applying for the job, say that you're a business analyst and you've documented business requirements. And if they're looking for improving processes, make sure you've identified that on your resume. And if they're looking for agile methodologies, make sure you've put that there. Look for any software requirements and make sure they're listed in your software skills. So it really shouldn't take a lot of time, but do take that time to study. Otherwise, you won't get a close match. So the ATS system won't put you towards the top. And then you want a recruiter to look at your resume and within 7.4 seconds say, yeah, this is the person we're looking for. Good. I have another question. And then how do you deal with jobs that have ridiculous requirements, like 5 years of experience with a software package that's only 2 years old? Oh, that's crazy. Oh boy. Well, just put the software, if you have that experience with that software system, just put it on your resume. And that's pretty something. And then also what I found working in HR, a lot of job descriptions were a couple of years old because it would take a long time to update all of the job descriptions. So often they're very old, they're put together by a committee and they get added to. And so sometimes they can be kind of a laundry list of everything. So what you want to do is read the job description and really get an essence for what are the important things you think they're looking for. So you're kind of reading their mind a little bit. Okay, all right. So at this time, I am going to stop sharing the PowerPoint and I'm going to share our first resume that was actually submitted to me ahead of time. Let's see, share, and then let me see if I can pull this up. Yeah, Jeff, this workshop is getting so popular. People are actually sharing their resumes ahead of time to make sure they make it in time to get shared during the program. So can you see the resume okay? All right. I'm not going to touch my screen because last time Zoom kind of threw me out. Let's see if I can hit my chat box. Okay, good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll through this resume, and I'd like everyone out there, this is audience participation, everybody out there, and then Susan and Jeff, take a look at this resume. We're just going to spend a few seconds scrolling through it and type in some words about what you like about it, and if you see any suggestions for improvement. So I'm going to scroll down the resume. So there's the top information. There's qualifications here. Research skills, business skills, software skills. There's experience with the dates nicely justified, and the dates for the jobs over there. Good job there. And then another job at the director level. Okay. And then education, and that's it. And some advanced training at a university, which is good. That's good. Sometimes I see advanced training and people, they're LinkedIn learning classes, which everybody can take. But if they're critical for the job, that might be important. Okay, great. So, so we did a quick scroll through this resume, and I'll read a couple of chat questions. And then Susan, as a leader of talent acquisition, I'm interested in your thoughts about this resume. And let's see. Somebody said excellent alignment. Yeah, it's very well centered and aligned. Okay, the name should be centered, somebody said. Lots of white space. Make sure the title of the job is the title for the resume. Yes. So modify this section here, the Insight Analyst Strategist or Business Intelligence, based on what you're applying to. Good. And Susan or Jeff, do you have any comments?
I would do away with the months. I think all you need are the years listed. By putting the months on there, it sort of clutters it up. I like underneath the title saying what the company does. I like those couple lines. It gives me, if I didn't know the company, it makes it defines what it is.
Good. And somebody did say minimize the skills. That there are a lot of skills there.
I think the software skills could go down towards the end.
Yeah. Unless it's a job where that's like the most critical thing, SAS and SQL.
Right. I doubt Microsoft Office 365 is an essential skill.
Yeah, that's true. And then somebody wondered about the left alignment.
That would be Janet. And I have a question and I'm not like being critical. I'm just trying to learn for myself how the qualifications and the experience is on the left. Is that how most people do it nowadays?
I typically center it like in the template I provide, but I think.
I mean, I've seen it this way before. I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong. I'm just.
It's a matter of preference.
Leaving everything left justified makes it very easy for the ATS system because it doesn't have to try to figure out what's going on. It just, that made, a left justified resume like this is great for an ATS system, but if you're going to hand somebody a resume personally, you may want to make it look a little bit different, a little bit nicer looking, but this is perfect for an ATS system.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Good question there. And this is a special character, the between Insight Analyst Strategist, somebody pointed that out, and that could cause an issue. But you would want to modify that line anyway, just to have the title that you're applying to. Okay. And then Susan, I don't know if you had any comments. Okay, she's responding to some questions, it looks like.
Yeah, I like the white space. I have to go along with you, Jeff, I think. In terms of the skills, it would really be making sure they're aligned to the job you're applying for. So that might be something we've talked in the past about building out an overall resume with all your qualifications and maybe, customizing it or curating it based upon the job. So if some of these things are needed, it's great to have it in there. If they're not, you may want to cut some of that out, because most of the time the recruiter is going to look more at the job and what you did where. And the same with, your accomplishments. I'm going to want to know what you accomplished at this company. And you've done a nice job with that. I mean, you have your action verbs starting out, which I think is really good. Anytime you can put in specific quantitative numbers in terms of what you've accomplished, that's also good. But it's easy to read, which I like. I mean, that's the key thing is, when you think about it, is readability. The other thing, if you go back up, Carol, this is ticky-tack, but you see under Director Insight and Data, there's not a space between the bullets. And under Insight Analyst Director, there is a space. For me, and this is too many years of doing PowerPoints, I don't care what you choose, but your formatting needs to stay consistent.
Yes.
It's a little thing, but just keep some consistent formatting. And how you do it is up to you, but just keep it consistent.
Okay. And then one question.
If you go back to the top again for skills, I'm going to tell you that if I interview you, I'm going to ask you, so what are your top 3 skills? Your top 3 skills better be these 3 or these 3 across the very top there. Don't tell me that statistical analysis is your top skill in predictive models, because make sure that you put your top 3 skills at the top of the list.
That relate to that job.
Relate to the job, because I'm going to ask you that in an interview.
Yeah, exactly. And then Susan, I'm curious what you recommend for this resume, because one thing that I see is there are 2 positions at the director level and then nothing else. And so I'm wondering, was there any prior experience? It does look chopped off to me. So, and so that would raise a question in my mind, because it stops at 2004 and the only job there is a director. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and with that, you may want to just put earlier positions include just a quick brief, and that really, dependent upon you. The other thing in terms of some of the LinkedIn learning certificates, I always recommend including all that on your LinkedIn profile, but be careful what you include on your LinkedIn profile versus your resume. It's almost 2 different profiles.
So would you recommend
more individual choice? What?
Yeah. And that's one thing we do during these seminars is we provide various different perspectives, and you do have to pick kind of what works best for you. So Susan, were you saying that you would recommend or not include the LinkedIn Learning on a resume?
I mean, if it's actually certificate, I would include it. You know what I mean? But I don't think you need to put LinkedIn Learning. I would just list the certificates,
right?
Yeah, most of the time we're more concerned with actual certifications like MSc, Microsoft certified XYZ versus the certificates.
Okay, yeah, these do say certificates. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. It's more the certifications typically that you're looking for.
Right. Okay, good. And I think we do have time to look at another resume. So thank you for submitting that one. And now we'll pull up another one. Let's see. Try to do it in the order that I received them. Oops. Okay, the other one is in a kind of reading format.
Carol, that other one.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yeah, we see it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Is this the format you meant to submit?
Hi, Carol, it's me. I sent a text version, which is what I typically use when I copy paste into an ATS. And this is also like my master copy, which I would edit to, customize for each application.
Okay, okay, so this is sort of your master version and the version you put into the ATS. Okay, and then you probably do have a Word version as well?
Correct, yeah. Word
Okay.
or PDF, I have both versions.
Okay, okay. So for,
You may want to go under, I guess it's format or view, and turn on the line, what do you call it? Line breaks or line return.
Yeah, go, if you click on view, oops,
click on view.
next to help. Right
Oh,
there.
I see.
And then,
I think it's under format, I'm sorry.
yeah, go to format, I guess, okay.
Word wrap.
Word wrap. Okay,
Or it'll pull the end of the line over for you. So, what he's talking about is that, this is his master resume. By using Notepad, it strips out all formatting. So you're not having any kind of, everything's the same size. It's all generic lettering. Anything that you would paste in from here would be readable in an ATS system, because an ATS system minimally will always be able to do this. And then he puts everything on there so that way when he sees a job, he can go save it as, and then delete anything that's not necessary.
yes. I do wonder about these lines though. That looks like a special character, those up and down lines.
It's
So-
on the standard keyboard. So, it's on everybody's standard keyboard. It's right above the
Okay.
enter key.
I think that's
Okay,
what
so
they
it may
call
be okay.
I think that's what you call piping, isn't it?
Yes, pipe.
Yeah, it's called a pipe character. It's right above your return key.
Yes, okay. All right. Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing the version that gets uploaded that a recruiter would look at.
I can send it to you, Carol.
Well, yeah, we won't have time to look at it probably today, but okay. So we won't be really critiquing this one the way we usually do. One thing that jumps out to me, yeah, if this is your master version, you'd probably only want to pick 5 to 8 of the bullet points when you're submitting for a job, because these bullet points are long and there's a lot of them, and a recruiter's not going to read all of this. We want it to be, as Susan mentioned, we want it to be a headline that really focuses on results.
I like the word agile in there. That's a hot word, if you will. Like every webcast I go to, any of the recent jobs, I have that agile team. I caught it in there. So if that was a good bullet. It was somewhere in there, Carol.
Somewhere in there, yes, okay.
It's
Okay,
like that caught my eye. And keep in mind, we're all humans, right? Like there'll be times there, the manager will say, I need someone that's worked in agile teams. So if you have that, that's like one of those hot skill sets for the 2020s.
great, okay. And then for the version that people would read, you'd want the dates for the company over here to the right, where it's a little easier to read. And you'd want your key skills probably in columns where you have more white space in between it, because it's so that they stand out a little bit more.
Okay.
And you want your opening to be about 3 lines. Okay, was somebody else speaking?
The other thing I know, and this to me, right? So one of the things you have up there is digital user design. So I think it would be interesting to see your resume, because this is a case, Carol, you and I had this discussion as well, where I would do a PDF document showing your design skills in a really cool resume. I mean, keep in mind what type of job you're going for. But if you're going for a design resume, have a highly designed resume, that you're doing an attachment. This would go in the ATS, but also attach that because it gives you an opportunity to showcase your skills.
So show your design skills. Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your resumes here. We had 2 of them, and I think we had a 3rd one. And once again, if you, since we didn't have time to review the 3rd one, if you want to reach out to me, you're welcome to on LinkedIn. Great. So thank you for that. And with that, we'll turn it back over to Jeff.
Ladies, thank you all very much. For those people who are on Facebook, if you want to get a copy of the sample resume or T-cover letter or the article that we posted into the chat box here, you can send me an email at webmaster@careerdfw.org. Tell me what you're looking for, and I will be sure to get it for you. Please be sure to join Career DFW every week. We do this presentation every week. I talked about at the beginning the North Dallas Plano Focus Group. Tomorrow morning at 9:30, we're going to talk about kingdomality. Where do you fit in the kingdom? There's an online test you can take. It'll take you about 10 minutes to take, and you'll be given a role, and you will be one of the following different, one of the 12 categories here, and our speaker will talk about where it is, what you do, and how you fit in. So please be sure to join us. And then next Tuesday, our speaker is going to be Terry Sullivan. We'll be talking about LinkedIn on Tuesdays, as we do each week. We have 4 different speakers. We get to pick up a little bit something different every week. And then next Wednesday, we'll be on session number 3 of 13. We're going to talk about star stories, a deep dive into star stories, how to tell them what a star story is, and what should be included. So please join us on Zoom. You can join us on Facebook Live. Check the careerdfw.org calendar for more information. We're with you every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 1 o'clock and Fridays at 9:30 in the morning. As Sarah asked and a couple people, yes, all these sessions have been recorded. They're all on the Career DFW Facebook page. They'll be on the Career USA YouTube channel. This one on the YouTube channel will be up in about an hour, hour and a half. It takes a little while for the system to process it. Please be sure to check each page. Please subscribe to both of them, and you'll find out when new things are going live. If you go to the YouTube page, if you click on playlist where you see that green arrow, at the bottom, you'll see the playlist that I've put together. And every time I upload a video, I put it into a playlist. So if you were to click on where the red arrow is, click view full playlist, you'll see all the sessions that have been recorded, and you can go back and look at past sessions. So please remember, Career DFW is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. We have no full or part-time employees. Everybody is a volunteer. Carol, Susan, they were both volunteering just to help us out. I'm a volunteer. We do this just to help you land your next great opportunity. So we survive on donations. Please consider when you do get your next opportunity that you do make a donation so we can continue the good work that we're doing. And if your company offers matching donations, please look up the Career DFW name so that way your donation doubles in value. And if you don't see our name on the list, please contact me and I will get our name on the list, as I have for a couple companies here in the last few years. So thank you very much for joining us. Susan, thank you. Carol, thank you very much. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see everybody maybe tomorrow morning or sometime next week.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. And thank you, Susan.
Thank you.